Greetings, Star Warrior.
Today, if I'm making a video, there must be something in Star Wars news to report about. Well, kind of, sort of, maybe, yeah. I don't have many official news sources for this topic, but I was watching a Stephanie Janicek video, and her video source seemed to be Mike Zero. Now, she may have heard about this somewhere else as well. I'm not sure, but Mike Zero did not seem to post a link to his sources. So I'm sort of vague on this information. I'm going to go ahead and report on it anyway, mostly because I think that Stephanie brought up some pretty good points in her video that I'd like to, sort of go over. And maybe also some stuff that I disagreed with that Mike Zero may have said in his video. But let's see how this turns out. So Stephanie talked about a lot of the stuff that George Lucas coming back to Star Wars would mean for Star Wars in general. Like retconning some of the terrible influence that Kathleen Kennedy has exercised over the franchise over the past couple years. Lando being pansexual, I can definitely see that being retconned. It was totally ridiculous. I didn't see the Solo movie, so I don't know exactly how that played out in the movie. From what I've heard, it didn't play out very much. It was hinted at and a little more, but I don't know. It could have been a more prominent part of the story. So, depending on how prominent Lando's sexuality was in that movie, will kind of determine how difficult it is to retcon such a thing. But anyway, perhaps George Lucas will be able to undo some of the stuff that was done in The Last Jedi. I don't know. But the point is that if Lucas is coming back for a prominent role in the Star Wars franchise, that will spell out Disney's lack of faith in Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson and all of their ilk, which would be great for Star Wars. It would be great for me. I would be more happy with the franchise and stop boycotting, more than likely stop boycotting their products. But as this is the ultimate source for this seems to be Mike Zero, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. He's quite often less than correct in a lot of the things he says. So I don't know. Maybe he'll make another video on it. Maybe he'll post the link to his source. As I said in his last video about this, I didn't see where he posted any links to any sources about this topic, which I would usually think is something that he regularly does. I know he posted a lot of links below this video, and the titles of them did not seem to address this at all. So if anybody knows about that, maybe you can let me know in the comments where Mike Zero's sources were, if he had any. Because right now they seem to be anonymous as far as I'm concerned. One of the things he did talk about, which I just thought that was kind of weird, kind of strange, and just goes to show that although Mike Zero seems to have turned against Kathleen Kennedy in recent days, he's still looking at Disney, the Disney Star Wars product through somewhat rose-colored glasses, if you ask me. He went and talked about how George Lucas should influence Episode 9 in Star Wars in the days to come, and talked about how it would be good to sort of explore this storyline with the Wills. And if you don't know anything about the Wills, don't be confused or anything, because no one knows all that much about them. They seem to be sort of a storyline that George Lucas never got into, really. He never quite got to them with Star Wars. I mean, he played around with them. There were always something in the background, the backstory that just the story never addressed, at least not in the movies. I know the Clone Wars cartoon seemed to have, dabbled in that for an episode or 3, but anyway, Mike Zero thought that it would be a great idea, and it would be great if Disney went with that, and Lucas, sort of spearheaded that. And I will post a link to both Stephanie's video, and below that I'll post a link to Mike Zero's video, and you can see exactly what's going on, what I'm talking about here. But I think that would be a terrible, terrible, terrible move, a terrible idea. I don't want to get Star Wars, I don't want Star Wars to, jump off of this Kathleen Kennedy springboard into George Lucas's playground and get too far away from what George Lucas already established, from the get-go. I want George Lucas to bring Star Wars back to some normalcy, away from the catastrophe that was Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi film, away from the catastrophe that was, Kathleen Kennedy's solo film. I don't want to pin that on Ron Howard. He didn't write it, as far as I know. But yeah, I wanted to get away from that. I want to get it, back to something that is recognizable to me and is recognizable to, most of you out there. Because right now, Star Wars is something else. It's not recognizable. I don't know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at this stuff, but it's not Star Wars. So the wills just don't say Star Wars to me. Mike Zero's video also, I can't remember if it's the same video or if it's a different video I saw from him, but he also talked about Maz Kanata's ship and how she's going to be having a certain ship and a certain crew in episode 9, and how it reminded him of the old anime character Captain Harlock from Galaxy Quest 999, and from another anime, and from, animated movies and stuff like that. He's a pretty cool character, and his complaint was that Captain Harlock was not Star Wars enough for this sort of pirate ship that Maz Kanata is going to have, and the sort of pirate crew that Maz Kanata is going to have. And I have to say, Captain Harlock is more Star Wars than the Wills are at this moment. These ghostly force type freaks, that sort of talk to Yoda in the Clone Wars cartoon did not remind me of Star Wars at all. And if that's what they're going to be, it just seems like some weird mumbo jumbo that they were going on about before the Clone Wars series ended. So I would, I don't think George would take Star Wars in that direction, because he's had plenty of opportunities to do so in the past, and he never got there. But, another concern is the fact that George Lucas has officially taken part in other, Star Wars things since The Last Jedi. And Lucasfilm likes to air that news as much as they possibly can. So we know that when he visited the set on before the Solo premiere, before the Solo movie came out, Disney made a huge deal out of that, and he did basically nothing. He didn't save that movie. He didn't help that movie. So that's another thing we want to be wary of, is getting too excited over this sort of news, especially when I can't seem to find any articles or, videos that are official on the matter. Which, that's kind of sad. I would really like someone who's got some sort of inside track to report on this. But, I Googled it. I listened to Stephanie's video. I listened to Mike Zero's video, and I don't have any concrete details on it, which is disappointing. Yeah, but just because Lucas steps in and he says a couple words, we have to be wary not to get too excited, because Disney will overblow it. And a bunch of people writing articles we know will overblow it. We don't want to follow that pattern and overblow it as well. George might just be stepping in for a day, might just offer a word or two. That's news, apparently, especially in the dire position that Lucasfilm is in right now. They're going to air that news as much as possible when it happens, and they'll make a big deal out of, every word he says. So just be on your guard, everybody. I don't have too much more to say about that. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you're listening, You are the new rebel. You are the new rebel. You